From the Ear to There Travel Studio, this is the Ear to There Disney Podcast.
The Ear to There Podcast, it's time to start the show. Be sure to hold on tight, here we go. Exploring all the different Disney destinations. Ear to There, it's time to start the fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ear to There Disney Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Gramlich. I am also the owner and the founder of Ear to There Travel, which is a Disney-specialized travel agency. It is my job to take away all of that stress, all of that anxiety, and all that time that it takes to plan a Disney trip, so you can focus on the really fun things like having a great time with your family and friends and enjoying the magic. And let me take away all that time. Let me take away all that anxiety. Let me help you plan that entire trip completely and totally free of charge. That's right. I never charge a fee for my services. So from getting you the best possible price on your trip to dining reservations, Fast Pass Plus reservations, special event tickets, transportation, golf tee times, you name it, I do it all for free. So let me be your guide. Let me be the Benny the Jet Rodriguez to your Scotty Smalls. Can't throw a ball? I'll teach you. I'll tell you about a paper route. Can't catch a ball? I hit it right to your glove. Don't have a glove? I'll give you my backup. Listen, Benny the Jet is like the most giving child character ever in the history of cinema. I'm not saying I'll be that nice, but I should be. You can find this podcast, my blog, or request a free, no obligation quote over at ear2theretravel.com. All right, this is episode number 138 for the week of August 27th, 2018. Now, grab a drink, grab a snack, and as a famous mouse once said, on with the show. And sadly this week, I don't have a Bob clip for you. I'm sorry. Bob has been traveling. I was traveling. We couldn't make our schedules kind of sync up. But I'm going to talk to him this week and have a whole bunch of new questions starting next week with, of course, the Disney legend, Disney Imagineer, Bob Gurr. So you'll have to tune in next week. Now you already have a reason to tune in. All right, let's get started on episode number 138.
Ear to There, Ear to There.
Here to chat with me all about what we miss in Disney's Hollywood studios is a fellow Disney nerd, a member of the Ear to There travel team, and she once had a starring role on the hit show I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant. Lauren Gadgioli, welcome back to the show.
Oh, yes. That's how I left my imprint on Hollywood. I did that and then retired.
I can't believe I didn't know that about you until a couple of months ago.
It's kind of embarrassing.
No, it's awesome. It's very awesome. When you told us that, like we were walking through, I think we were walking through like the parking lot at like Imagineering or in a Disney studio, and we were both like, what? Like that's, dude, you can't know somebody for multiple years and not know that fact about them.
I know, right?
That's awesome. So true Hollywood television royalty. No, it's so cool. The only time I've ever gotten on TV is like when I'm in the crowd for something. Like I've been at a baseball game, and I was at a baseball game once when the World Baseball Classic. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We used to have it at Disney World, and I went something like 12 years ago, and a friend of mine and I sat in the second row, and my big claim to fame being on TV was Albert Pujols hit a home run it was the Dominican Republic versus Italy, and Italy is not a powerhouse of baseball. Just so you know.
No. The Dominican Republic, on the other hand.
Yeah, huge powerhouse, right? So Albert Pujols hit one of the longest home runs I've ever seen in my life. And I just remember sitting in the second row and hearing it off the bat and being like, oh my, like you see my face. Like I watched that. We had it on DVR, Amy and I, for years. And you just watch my face and my jaw just drops like, It was the loudest thing it was crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really cool. It was one of those things where he hit it and the whole stadium was just like, ooh, that was really cool. That's my claim to fame on TV. Nothing close to yours.
Yeah, well, I also sold leather couches at one point in a regional commercial, so I don't know which one's more impressive. I did.
What was your line? Can you say it? Do you remember it?
No. I mean, it was the whole ad. Like, it was me selling couches.
Wow.
It was very bizarre.
So that's a long stretch from your career now, from what you do now. It really is.
Quite.
But, dude, thank you again for being on. This is going to be fun. And I realized after I floated this topic your way, were you born when this park opened? You weren't, were you?
When it was 89?
Yes. What year did you?
Yeah, I was 4.
Okay. All right. Good.
I didn't see it until I think my first trip to Disney World was in 93.
Yeah, right around when mine was. Mine was 92, 93. I can't get a confirmation on the year. Every time I ask my mom, she's like, "It's 92 or 93." I don't know.
Come on,
we have a video of it, but I can't remember. We never labeled it, so I don't know which year. And my sister,
are there like on that same video? Are there events before and after that can help you?
We only taped the Disney World trip on that VHS tape.
What?
And, excuse me, I know. And
who does that?
I know. And my it was after my sister, to not to go too far, had a brain tumor. My uncle decided she was recovered. She was 5, and my uncle sent us on a trip. But she got the brain tumor when she was 4, and she recovered when she was 5. So nobody remembers if we went before her second surgery. Anyway, huge long thing. So back to Hollywood Studios. I'm already down a rabbit hole.
I know, right? Here we go.
Okay, so Disney's Hollywood Studios has changed a lot since it first opened in 1989. We could talk about the days of when it was a live, a television and movie studio. Rest in peace, Thunder in Paradise. We can we could talk about Drew Carey and Sounds Dangerous. I'm hoping I'm not stealing one from your list.
You're not. You're not. You've avoided them so far.
Good. So
I'm cringing every time you bring something new up, though.
I'm not. That's it. I'm going to stop. But I'm going to be a complete nerd right now. Not like I'm never not a complete nerd. And say the future of the park, though, is super, super bright.
Yes.
I got to wear shades. See, there's the nerdy part of it. But I think it is. I think I know that it's not going to be this, the Hollywood Studios park. It's not going to look much like it did when we first went. But I'm excited about what's coming. I know you are, because you're a big Star Wars fan like I am.
Oh, so, yes.
You've been to Toy Story Land, right? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you went, but you didn't get to go.
We didn't go to studios last time I was there, so I'll see it in October.
Okay, so we're going to leave that out anyway, because that's still there.
Yeah, we can't miss it.
Started.
It just started, yeah.
It's like a week and a half old. All right, so let's get into what we miss at Hollywood Studios. And Lauren, since you were the only one that's been on a show about not knowing you were pregnant, you can go first.
Oh, wow. I feel like I should use that in real life. I've been on a TV show.
Yeah. No, you should. First? You get you live out in California. Don't you get preferential treatment now when you get a restaurant?
No,
I was on the show.
I wish.
I'm the girl
Nobody
that was
cares.
on that episode of the show when I was in a karate class with the girl who was pregnant, but didn't know.
Yes.
Anyway, so you go.
I was the kickboxing instructor, Phil. Get it right.
Wait, you were the instructor of the class?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's for no joke.
And I'd never kickboxed before, so that was fun. They were like, "That's not how it works."
That's how good of an actress you are.
Yes, exactly.
All right, sorry.
So
go.
I am gonna go. My first thing that I miss. Let's go to a recent retiree, and let's go with the Great Movie Ride, because I went on it, I guess 2 trips ago. It was the last time I ever got to ride it. And I was so sad. I was with my friend who is also an actress, and we were not very kindly laughing the whole way through because it was so sad. And the way it lives in my memory is this epic adventure. I mean, the great movie ride. It really lived up to its name, and everybody was all in on their roles. And I always loved the queue because they had such amazing tributes to various characters that from the silver screen that I admired. I remember I got to see the red dress from Scarlett O'Hara.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they had such incredible, incredible tokens to old Hollywood that I loved that that's what set it up. And then the adventure itself was always so fun. The guide was always in there and really like with you and painting the picture. And there was that willing suspension of disbelief. So I was very disappointed the last time. Sad that that's my last memory. It's her only memory of that ride, so it will never, ever be what it should be to her. But I just remember really enjoying it and going on it multiple times in a trip. It was not maybe I'll go on that. It was, this is a destination. This is something that I really want to go and experience a few times. And I still will always and forever close my eyes in the alien scene because that was scary.
So okay. So I worked on a movie ride very, very briefly.
Yeah.
When I first moved back to Florida, after my college program, I got a job back with Disney, and I got assigned to the movie ride. I was accepted into attractions, and so I started training there. Memorized the entire script, did some training shifts, and then got moved to Star Tours, like right after that. So I never really got to do my own tour guide show, which was a bummer because I was ready to go.
I bet you would have been phenomenal.
I don't know, but I just, my favorite line, and the tour guide didn't get to say it, was, "Will Harrison Ford escape with his discovery? And what will be your fate?" Remember that guy? The announcer guy? I love the announcer guy. And,
amazing.
It was such a great attraction. It really was. I agree, couldn't agree really with you more. I loved everything about it. My friends met while working as tour guides, ended up getting married, are still married to this day, and their daughter is my goddaughter. So that I have a very special kind of thing with the movie ride, and I miss it. And I love the "Hi, my name is Phil, and I'll be taking you from the Hollywood soundstage right into the middle of the greatest movies." I'm sorry, messed it up. Movies ever made. And this is ordinary. This is a great job for me. Why? Because I love movies, and I love that, and I'm such a nerd, and it's one of my favorites, and I do miss it, but I'm looking forward to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I think
I am too.
I think it's going to be a sleeper hit. I think it's going to be. Nobody really sees it as one.
I think nobody's excited about it, but I think the tech behind it, and I think it's going to be. I agree with you. Sleeper hit's probably the best way to say it. I think it's the perfect place for Mickey to live. His first attraction.
Yeah,
it should be in Grauman's. I mean, that's where it all started in LA, and I'm thrilled that they're going that direction, and I am actually pretty pumped to see what they do with it.
I am too. And if you have one Disney animatronic that you could have saved and taken from the movie ride to have in your home, what would it be? Just one.
Oh my gosh.
I've asked this question before.
I think even though I said I'm terrified of it, I think I'd want the alien
that's pretty cool.
for Halloween and put it above my door so that as kids are trick-or-treating, when they ring the bell, I want it to pop down and scare the living daylights out of them.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good one.
That would be so fun.
For me, I said one, but I'm cheating. It's the Casablanca scene. I want Bogart and Bacall like to do the "Here's looking at you, kid" every time I walk in the house. I love that.
My dad would have appreciated if I had done that for him. That's his favorite movie.
It's a great movie. Have you seen it?
It's phenomenal. You cannot grow up in my household and not have seen it multiple times. And Caddyshack.
That's awesome. Your dad he was raising you right. Perfect.
Right.
My thing was my friend and I play guitar badly and he can sing. So we always wanted to start a band. And we wanted to call it Upstairs at Rick's. Because upstairs at Rick's was where his office was in Rick's Cafe. I thought that was a cool name for a band. So,
I like it.
all right, so anybody can steal that because I'm not ever going to use it. All right. So my first one, and this one is kind of, this is something that was at the studios for, I don't know, just not a really long time. I think maybe 8-9 years. Yeah, I think it was like 8 years. The Disney Stars and Motor Cars Parade. It doesn't have the staying power, obviously, that something like Movie Ride did. I don't know why. I really, really like this parade because they had these cars. Do you remember this?
I don't think I ever saw it. No.
Right, so they had these cars. It was a parade that went down. It started back over by where Star Tours and all is, that gate there. And it came down and it went in front of the where Frozen Ever After is, that strip there, came out in front of the Chinese Theater and then went down Hollywood Boulevard. And the floats were old time looking, like antique cars that were painted to look like they belonged to the characters. So Toy Story, the Toy Story float was like Jessie, Woody, Buzz, Bo Peep, but the car was painted in color to look like it belonged in the Toy Story universe, but it was like an old like a 60s convertible.
Yeah.
And the Star Wars vehicle looked like a land speeder, and it had R2-D2 and Princess Leia and Luke and Darth Vader would walk behind it. And then the Mulan one, I forget what the Mulan one looked like, but there's a Hercules car, there's a villain's car.
What?
Yeah, this is a really cool parade. It was really different.
I'm gonna YouTube this.
Yeah, and
this sounds awesome.
Yeah, and it was. I really think it was to drive attendance to that park post 9/11, because post 9/11, no one was going to the parks, especially Hollywood Studios. So there's nothing new really there, so no one was going. Yeah. So this was a new thing to add. Probably didn't cost Disney a lot of money, but you could go. It ran all the time. Every day. I had a friend of mine who worked in a park who, of course, got me VIP seating. So I would sit on the steps out front of the Frozen, what is now the Frozen Theater. I forget the name of the theater. Where the Frozen, for the first time in forever is now. And we would watch the parade go by, and nobody would stand in front of us, and it was awesome. So yeah, I love the Stars and Motor Cars Parade. I had too much soda before I recorded.
Getting ahead of yourself. Wow, I love that. That sounds amazing. I wonder if they would bring it back. Probably not.
It ended up going to Paris, to the the studios park out there, Walt Disney Studios. I think it's still there, actually.
Cool. All right, trip to Paris. Let's do it.
Get this: it actually had an Atlantis float at one time.
What?
Yeah,
I like that movie.
I like it too.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
I probably haven't seen it since the year it came out.
Yeah.
And I haven't shown my kids. Tonight we're watching.
We love it so much. We've never watched it again.
I didn't want to say no, I didn't like it. Tonight my kids were watching. Amy's going out like the ladies do on the Thursday nights. No, she's going out for a family get together. So my kids and I are going to watch Mary Poppins. They've never seen it.
What?
They're young, so they've never seen it all.
Yeah.
So we're going to watch it.
Such a good movie.
The lights out, get the popcorn, and watch it. All right, so your next one.
Love it. So I'll go. This is so silly, and I don't know why in my head this is something that I missed because I was not a huge Ninja Turtle girl when I was little. But I remember how excited my nephew was to do the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle meet and greet. It was so fun. Their little hands, they couldn't sign your autograph book, so I have a Donatello stamp in purple, of course. And I just remember, I think that might be one of the only meet and greets that I ever waited for as a kid. Like, it wasn't something we just stumbled across. We weren't a meet and greet family, but I remember we heard that they were coming out, and I remember very clearly my family being like, no, we're waiting for this. And so it might be just that it's tied to that moment and the excitement on my nephew's face, but it was pretty cool, and I just think it's hysterical that the turtles were in the park.
What's funny is I was the opposite. I stumbled onto those guys a couple of times. I can't even tell you the years that they were in the park. But I remember they were over
Probably
by,
93.
Okay, yeah, like they were over by on New York Street, right? They had the van.
Yeah.
They had the turtle van.
Yeah.
And they were, and April would sometimes be with them. And there was the 4 turtles. Yeah, I remember. And
they would like fan out. Like they would go to separate, like it was like almost in a square. Like they were each the points of a square and they'd like each have their own cue. Well, it was very cool.
They're ninjas, so they can't let anything get behind them, right?
Good point. Fair point.
I don't know. Is that how ninjas work? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, what's really funny is you just reminded me, I played 20 questions with my kids the other night. We were playing on the Amazon Echo, the Alexa.
Yeah.
And Alexa, my daughter, decided, she's like, we're going to do a ninja. And I'm like, there's no way. It's like, that's too hard. And she's like, Dad, let's do ninja. And it got it. It was amazing. It got ninja.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. Anyway, it also got like an okapi. I'm like, what? This thing.
What?
Yeah, it's scary.
You're clearly a Disney family, by the way.
I know.
The okapi.
I know.
For your
and now we just
5 and 7-year-old.
I know. And we just got a new robot vacuum cleaner. And
nice.
You can voice connect to the Alexa. So like when I'm going upstairs, I can say, like, Alexa, have the vacuum the whole downstairs. And it will. It's awesome.
We are living in the future.
It is. It's the carousel progress scene.
It is.
Really is. Anyway.
That's exactly where I went.
It's crazy. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Anyway, Ninja Turtles were awesome. Remember the Power Rangers were there for a while, too.
Were they?
They used to meet. Yeah, they had same deal. They would come out in a car. They had like a vehicle that they would drive out in and meet people. And then I wonder, and just a quick, slight tangent. Mulch, Sweat, and Shears had a van that they would come out in. Knowing Disney, and they've been retired for, I guess, a year now.
I think a little over.
Knowing Disney, I bet that the Ninja Turtle van and the Mulch, Sweat, and Shears van was the same.
Same.
I would almost put money on that. Anyway, I'm going to look that up because there's no way. I have no idea. But like when I talked to Bob Gurr about Walt's vehicle that he built, Walt's car that Walt used to cruise around Disneyland in, that car is with the same one of those ones that he used, that he built specifically for Walt to drive around Disneyland in, so Walt didn't have to walk and be swarmed by the crowds. Ended up in Hollywood Studios with the citizens of Hollywood.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, the citizens of Hollywood. You know, one of those little buses they drive around. That was Walt's personal car in Disneyland.
Do you think that the performers know?
Probably not. I don't think I would.
Can you imagine? Like you're in a car Walt sat in and drove. It was his,
right?
And you don't even know it.
Yeah, I'll bet that they don't. Because when I asked Bob,
that should be part of their training. Like everybody should know.
Because when I asked Bob on the show,
that's magic.
Yeah, when I asked on the show if that was the right car, he was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Yeah, they changed the pedals around and they made it this kind of motor, and I don't know cars."
Sure.
Bob's
Me neither.
He's like, "Oh, they changed it from this kind of car to this kind of car." I'm like, I don't know what you mean, but
it was Walt's.
But it's the same car. Yeah, it's the same one. All right, so that's really cool. So okay, my next, is it me or you? Me, right?
It's you.
Okay, sorry. For my next trick, I am going to let's see. I have a lot of them pulled up. All right. So this one is one that was in ESPN in I think it started late 90s or early 2000s and went to like 2013. It was when Hollywood Studios did the weekends, the festivals. So they had Super Soap Weekend, they had Star Wars Weekend, which now is Star Wars is going to have such a big presence in the park. You don't
Star
need
Wars
it.
every weekend and weekday.
Yeah, you don't need it anymore.
The Star Wars park.
It really is. But they had ESPN the weekend, and I loved ESPN the weekend. I'm
not familiar with this.
Oh my God! See, I'm glad we're bringing this up then.
Yes.
So
educate me. What was ESPN the weekend?
So there was, I believe it started out as just one weekend, and then it expanded to a couple, or maybe it always just one like 4-day weekend. But it was in the off season, so it was like February after the Super Bowl, and there's really no major sports. Hockey and basketball are going on, but no football, no baseball. Basketball, it's basketball and hockey kind of in the middle of their season then.
Yeah.
So you would go, and included in your admission price to Hollywood Studios would be the ESPN The Weekend Festival. So they would shut down certain theaters, and there would be no regular, like, say the Stars, a motor car parade was going that day. Instead, it would be an athlete's parade. So at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, whenever it was, instead of having those cars and those characters, you'd have those cars, but then you'd have, like, Jerry Rice, and you would have Brian Urlacher, and you would have, who's your favorite athlete, Lauren, ever?
Oh my gosh. I don't. Javi Lopez, actually.
Well, I don't know if Javi Lopez ever made the ESPN weekend, but
he must have. He was part of the world champs.
He was an average catcher for the Braves.
I know, but he was part of when they won the World Series, I'm pretty sure. So
he probably did.
If you got a ring, you can go.
So we
could say Deion Sanders. Is that better?
Deion, okay. Deion, actually, I think I remember seeing Deion at one.
Oh, yeah?
So I was a cast member a couple times when they had them. So I would just use my cast ID and get into Hollywood Studios. And then, again, new friends who would get me into all the shows. I got into a Mike and Mike taping. They're the Mike and Mike with the video guys.
Yeah.
Where they interviewed Dr. J, who's like my favorite basketball player ever. I got to meet Dr. J. I got to meet CeCe Sabathia, Harold Reynolds, Brian Dawkins, Jeremiah Trotter, two of my favorite Eagles of all time.
Sabathia was around back then?
Sabathia. Don't make me sound older than I am, Lauren. This is like 2005. This is like 2005. It's not that long ago.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah, he was... Sabathia was pitching for, I forget who he pitched for before he was a Brewer. He wasn't a Yankee. He wasn't a Yankee and he wasn't a Brewer yet.
Oh, okay.
It was right before he got a Tiger, I think, before he got traded to the Brewers midseason in 2008. But yeah, I met, and I didn't know who Sabathia was at that time. He was a young guy. So you would go and then they would have these presentations where the athletes would come on and take questions from these little theaters, and David Robinson and Tim Duncan were on a panel, and they sat, and it would just be all these amazing athletes that you would go and see, and it was just this really cool thing to be up close to these athletes that you never got up close to because you're always seeing them from a distance or on TV. Really quickly, a friend of mine who was working the weekend, Brian Urlacher, just got inducted to the Hall of Fame, is a Chicago Bears linebacker legend, one of the best linebackers we've ever had. And my friend used to tell me about all these not so nice athletes that would come through and how they were coddled and they were babies. And that's a big reason why ESPN The Weekend was stopped. Well, Brian Urlacher was the opposite. He was the nicest guy, just this amazing guy to be around. So
I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
So my friend said, he was working with Urlacher that day. He was in charge of a lot of the weekend. So he brought Urlacher backstage and said, all right, Brian, you have a half hour until your next appearance. What can we do for you? Can I get you something to eat, something to drink? Do you want to go sit inside the air conditioning? They were at a picnic table backstage. And Brian Urlacher said, do me a favor. Go out to the park, find somebody with a Bears jersey, bring them back here. I want to meet them. So my friend and another cast member went out to the park, found a little kid with a Brian Urlacher jersey, brought him backstage, and the kid got a 10-minute meet and greet with Urlacher himself. How cool is that? That is an awesome story.
That is so totally true. Sweet.
Yeah, Brian Urlacher, awesome guy.
Wow.
So, totally true story. So and who wasn't a nice guy? And I don't care that I'll say because it's obvious. And Ben Roethlisberger, not a nice guy.
Shocking.
Yes, was the most.
I am surprised at this information.
Every Steeler fan who's listening is like, what? Yeah,
I know,
he
right?
apparently is a little bit of a sleazeball. So, hey, freedom of press. I can say if I want to. Anyway, all right, Lauren, you're up. What do you got?
All right. So, I have this background as an actress. So I'm going to go with Superstar TV.
You don't have a pregnant friend right now, do you?
I know. That doesn't know. Surprise.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I used to love watching Superstar TV.
Love it.
I remember there was kind of a similar, there was like a sound one, um, and voiceover over at Universal that my mom got on, and she got to be in the Murder She Wrote scene, which was like a dream come true.
I remember
But
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always loved that both parks had sort of similar experiences because they were so different, even though like the concept was somewhat similar. And I just really enjoyed always going and seeing people kind of get out of their comfort zone and do something fun, but also in the context, like the Lucy scene was the one that
Yeah.
always came to mind for me. Like, watching people try and eat the chocolates because I love Lucy, and then watching people act it out was just so fun. So, it was one of those things. Again, as an actress or wanting to be an actress, that the understanding kind of what went on behind the scenes. I feel like studios has somewhat lost that, and it's evolving. It's becoming something different, which is fine. But the heyday of what it was, as it was originally intended, it was really fun to partake in that.
Dude, that's one of my favorite lost attractions ever. And if people didn't experience it, I think you can still find a lot of it on YouTube.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah.
It was such a fun attraction. It was so different. I remember the I Love Lucy part. It was great because it would speed up, and people who had seen that famous scene on the show would do what Lucy's, what was it, Ethel? I forget her name.
Ethel, yeah.
Would do was try to put it in their shirt. But people who hadn't seen it, it was great. Either way, it was great. And then there was Cheers, where everybody's tricking Woody and saying it's their birthday and they get a free beer. There was Bonanza. There was I'll never forget once I was watching, I was a kid. I don't know if I might have been 13. And we went, and there was a group of people who were there that didn't speak English, right? Shocker in Walt Disney World, people don't speak English.
Surprising.
It's the number one tourist destination in the world, right? So you're going to get everybody who doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
So they told the guy, your line, he was kicking down a door in like a soap opera, and his line, he was the jealous husband, and his line was, "Aha, I knew there was someone else." So he spoke the worst broken English I ever heard. I don't even know what accent he had, but he comes in and he opens the door and he's like in a trench coat with an umbrella, and he's like, "Aha, I knew there was someone else." It was just the funniest thing. And he had like this big smile on his face. And everyone watching
Good for him.
Like, this is awesome. Like,
yeah,
you're right. That part of Hollywood Studios, or then MGM Studios, was such a big deal because you lived the movies. Like, I know that's Universal's line, but their tagline, but you got to experience stuff like that. So I loved it. I love Superstar Television. One of my favorites. Great pick. Love that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm bummed that you took it, but it's okay because I have other ones. All right, let me get my next one, a biggie, out of the way.
All right.
I think a whole lot of people, when it was announced that it was going away, were really, really, really upset by it. And a lot of them blamed me, even though I hadn't worked for Disney in about 10 years when they got rid of it. And it was the Osborne family spectacle of dancing lights.
Yeah.
Now, I know you got to see the Osborne lights.
I did, but only on the final Food and Wine, where it was at night.
And was it
and
announced?
We almost got rained out. It was a half.
Oh,
we
right.
Were 7.3 or something.
Didn't you end up, you guys were like herded into like a room or a studio or a soundstage for hours?
No, we weren't already on the course when the lightning started going. We were still at ESPN, so they just took us in and we all hung out, and that was my first,
or whatever it is.
Yeah, that was my first and only to date WW Run Disney race. I've done Disneyland events, but that's where I live. But yeah, that's my only experience doing a Run Disney race.
You didn't sign up this year for 2019?
I have not yet.
There are still openings.
There are some things going on with our family.
True.
Potential moves. So once the dust settles, I actually told my husband last night, I was like, the first thing we're doing once we've bought a new home is I'm registering, because I miss my Disney races, and he agreed.
Is it possible that you aren't running because you don't know you're pregnant? So anyway.
So good. I love it.
No, so I never got to run through the Osborne lights. I got to walk through them.
It was cool.
I got to do them back in the day when they were only on the streets of America, and they were only, the residential street, and they were only the original lights that came from the Osborne family before Disney added it and made it 5 million. There were 5 million lights.
Can you imagine the electric bill? Like,
no, I can't. And I think it was started right because a dad was doing it for his daughter, right? And they just had so much. This is enormous property, and they just had so many lights. And then eventually they got tired of doing it every year, and Disney was like, "We'll take it," and they took it on, and it was a very famous, fun, just an amazing thing to walk through. Yeah. And all the little Easter eggs that they hid in the windows on the streets of America, and all these little things that people remember. I loved it. I thought it was a really cool thing to see. I'm also, I'm going to miss it. I do miss it, but I don't. Because
what's coming?
Exactly. Like, I weigh
better than some twinkle lights.
Yeah, I exactly. Listen, I'm Mr. Christmas. Was my nickname.
Oh, yes.
Was my nickname in high school, Mr. Christmas. That's not true. That wasn't at all.
I was going to say, are you serious?
No, it's just that's just a joke that I use. It's like a self-defense mechanism. Anyway, I love Christmas. There's a movie called Deuces Wild where it's like a 90s movie where it's about like these 50s gangs. And there's this sister whose like brother was like killed in a gang fight. And it was around Christmas. So she's stuck in Christmas all year long in the movie. And I make fun of my sister because I always say my sister is the Deuces Wild girl because my sister will listen to Christmas music in August and September and all year round, right?
She's just getting ready.
Exactly. But I don't mind
the stores are going to be on board with her way of looking at life.
I was at the store yesterday. I went to just grab food for the family for dinner, and they have all the pumpkin beer out. It's August 16th.
Gosh.
I know.
Guys, it's still like 90 degrees.
I know.
Can we calm down?
It's like 94 here today. Anyway, we have a heat index in Florida of 105 today. So,
holy moly.
Aren't you glad you're not there today? This isn't the week of vacation. But seriously. Anyway, I do miss the Osborne lights, but I'm happy that Galaxy's Edge is coming and a Star Wars Hotel because now that is where all my money will go. Not my kids' education, not my future.
Oh, why plan ahead? Come on.
I'm going to Star Wars rich now. At some point, I'm going to get really rich. So I'm not worried about it.
There you go. I like that. That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Have future Phil take care of the kids.
I love that. That's from How I Met Your Mother. When they say, you know who's that's a problem for? Future Ted and future, it's Marshall. I love it's so funny. Amy and I say that all the time.
We do too.
Whenever like the kids, like 9:00 at night, I look in there, Zoe eating a piece of, a Hershey Kiss. And I'm like, that's a problem for future Amy and Phil.
And in that instance, it's 10 minutes from now when she won't go to bed,
still
but
future, still future. It's not in the moment. I'm going to finish my game in Nintendo. Anyway.
Yep.
All right, Lauren, sorry. You're up.
No,
I'll just keep going. You got to slow me down.
All right. Pump the brakes, Phil. So I loved all the interactive things that were part of not just studios, but really all the parks. I kind of miss them. I understand why they're harder to staff. You have to have really talented people who are leading these productions, and not everybody gets to play along. But I loved Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We are a trivia family. My dad sends out a trivia question to a list of like 80 people every morning. It's this like ongoing thing. We've always loved trivia. Trivial Pursuit was our family game. And my mom, dad, and I would just get in line and keep going to watch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. My dad and I both with those like quick questions at the beginning, we both were like right next to one another and almost got on. We were like the next one down, but we ran out of time. So we never got to be in the hot seat, but we loved it because it was so fun to play along. And I'm so sad that they took it out of both studios and California Adventure, because that soundstage has been empty since they got rid of it. Like, I think even though it's not a current thing, I feel like a lot of people would love something like that to be back in the parks. I realize that getting the right host and whatnot is a challenge, but it's just so fun, and I really miss it.
What about a host that lives close by and was once on You Didn't Know or I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant?
I feel like that would be an amazing, amazing thing. I would totally, you know what? If Disney calls me, I will say yes. Hashtag spoilers. Like, I will say yes. I will go and I will host, because it's just so, I think it's always so incredible to see like the random knowledge that people do have.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised, like in the opposite way of like jaywalking used to be, where you're like, oh, ouch, like these people don't know stuff. It was always the opposite. The people who ended up in the chair tended to do really well. So it was a fun thing to be able to cheer for your fellow park goer.
I agree. I love that. And I loved walking into that soundstage because you were like, I'm there.
Yeah.
Like, this feels, and there were the times when a show was super popular, when Regis would come to Hollywood Studios to host it from there. Like the same show would just, because it was the same exact set.
Totally.
So, 2 things. 1, I never got in a hot seat. I tried a million times. The other thing is, I actually tried out for the real Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I went to New York. I did the online test, and I passed it. So my dad had never been to New York before. Seriously, he's been
from Philly.
Yeah, born and raised in Philadelphia, lived there his whole life. Never went to New York. Was never in Manhattan until like 15 years ago. So he and I was like, Dad, just come with me. I need somebody to go. I don't want to go by myself. So he came with me to the audition. I made it through the first 2 rounds of, like, you went into this room. There were all these people, and it was like a Scantron, and you took this test, and I passed the first 2 things, and it was me and like 25 people left to narrow it down, and I didn't pass the 3rd round, so I didn't get it. But it was still really cool, and my dad got to see New York, and we had dinner. Guess where we had dinner? The All-Star Cafe in Times Square.
Oh, very cool.
Disney connection, right? Because there's one in...
Yeah.
But I think that there's only one left, and the only one left still is at ESPN Wide World of Sports. But it used to be like a thing. Like Wayne Gretzky and like Michael Jordan and stuff, I think, owned it. So, yeah, so we ate at the All-Star Cafe. I'll never forget.
Amazing.
But that was so much fun, that show. And I remember watching it in the park and seeing, like, okay, the first thing you would get is like a pin. And you'd be like, all right, so what? A pin. But then you could win like a Disney cruise at the end.
Yes.
It was so cool.
It was like right when I think the cruises launched.
Yeah, it was.
That was
exactly
like,
right. Yeah.
That was like one way that they were promoting it. It's pretty cool.
That's a good one.
So I have a trivia film story as well.
Awesome.
I got on to Trivial Pursuit America Plays, hosted by none other than Christopher Knight, the middle Brady boy.
Whoa.
And I won.
No way.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Wait, so is this another TV appearance?
Yeah.
Look at you. What did you win?
11 grand.
Dude, how did I not know this about you? How did we, seriously,
I don't know.
After we talked about the pregnant show and I'm making, by the way, it's all in good fun. I'm not really, I hope.
I know.
Yeah. I just want to make sure the listener knows.
I'm not taking it personally.
Yeah, the listener knows that I'm kidding.
Yeah.
And I kid because I love it. It's it's a funny story. It's a funny name for a show.
It is hysterical.
It's a funny name for a show.
It is so hysterical. Yeah, I didn't tell anybody I did it because I was like, I don't want, like, my close friends at the time, I was like, I don't want anybody to know that I was on this show.
But so you won $11,000.
Yes.
That is awesome.
And I could have gone double or nothing And the answer was Pursuit of Happiness, that movie with Will Smith. And I was really pissed because I hated that movie, and now I hate it doubly because it could have been 22 grand.
So you knew you would have known the answer.
Yeah. And I got a Disney question. The question was, what does Dumbo, one of the questions was, what does Dumbo hold in his trunk to help him fly?
Right, feather.
And I answered a black feather, and they had to pause filming because I put the color in, and they were like, "We just know it's a feather." And
you outsmarted the producer.
I
of the
did.
Show.
I was like, "Wow, you can look it up. It was a crow's feather. I could even tell you that."
Oh, that is awesome.
So, yeah, you don't see that in the final cut, but I was like, when I got a Disney question, I was like, I'm going to win this thing. It's like, this is going to happen.
Cool. Wait, so what did you spend the money on eventually? Do you remember?
I don't really remember. I think I just put it in savings because I'm that person.
You didn't. You weren't like me, like go out and blow it on some Disney stuff,
right? I should have.
That night, I would have been in a club making it rain. No, I would. Yeah,
I didn't do that.
I would have gone. I seriously, you know what I would have done? I would have bought some Disney like ride vehicle that would still be sitting in my house.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's what I would have bought. Because like when I have money, when I win money, which is rare if I bet, like I never bet anything. I'm not a gambler at all. But on the few occasions that I like played a pool or something and I won money, I'm always like, well, this isn't my money. Like I don't deserve this. So I just do something ridiculous with it. Like,
I love it.
Yeah. Like we just buy, like once I think I won a few $100s and I took my family out and bought everybody steaks. Just like,
nice.
I was like, this isn't mine. So yeah, get the biggest.
It's found money.
Exactly. Get the biggest steak you can get. And, let's go have fun.
I love it.
All right. So that's an awesome story, though.
Thanks.
So, yeah, you are much more of a celebrity than I've ever realized. That's really cool.
I think the pinnacle of my career, though, is that I have been multiple times on the Air to Their Disney podcast.
Oh, now you're just kissing my butt.
I am. I will do that. You're my boss. I have to. It's like in the bylaws.
All right. So, we got to move on from that. That was not a good look, Lauren. Not a good look. All right. So, what do I have? Two? I think I have two left. Yeah, two left. All right. So, all right. This one, I'll say my favorite one, my saddest one for last. This one I want to mention is something that's almost like a throwaway, but it wasn't to me, right? After you did the backlot tour, it would dump you in eventually into a gift shop. But before
shocking.
The gift shop, exactly. Very shocking. It's Disney. Before the gift shop, there was the American Film Institute, the AFI showcase, where you would walk through and they would have like a ton of props from all kinds of movies that you got to get up close and personal with. For a while, there were some Star Wars props in there. So they had like the original Darth Vader costume from Star Wars. They had like the models of the Death Star that they use and would fly the cameras over. And I'm doing it with my hands, like you can see.
We can see it. We're with you.
They had like that. They had the model from the Death Star and the different starships. They had like lightsaber model, like the real lightsabers that they used in the films. They had the Batman at some point, the Batman costume. They had Superman's cape in there. Like this is like Smithsonian's level stuff. Going with the wind costumes. Mm-hmm. The ruby slippers were in there for a while.
Yeah.
They were also, you mentioned the Great Movie Ride earlier. They were in the Great Movie Ride. The Great Movie Ride, yeah. But all of a sudden, Elmer Fudd. The Great Movie Ride for a while. And so was the chessboard from Star Wars was in a Great Movie Ride queue for a while. But this thing had everything you get, the coolest things you could think of. I'm trying to see what else it had. Yeah, Sound of Music costumes and the marionettes from Sound of Music, Titanic props. I mean, the whip that Harrison Ford used in Raiders of the Lost Ark was in the showcase for a while. So I used to love, and they didn't change it that much. It was like every year or two, they would change out the props in there. And like there was like the stuff from Narnia in there for a while, and from Pirates of the Caribbean because they were the movies that Disney had just finished. So they wanted to push those.
Sure.
But some of the stuff like that you got to see, and I remember once the backlot tour closed, that stayed open for a while because there wasn't a lot over there before they shut down that side of the park. And one day I went and I'm like, oh, I wonder what's in there. And I went up to the sliding doors and they didn't open. And I was like, what? And I saw the little sign that said it was closed forever. They closed it on my trip. I didn't even know they were closing it. I was so sad. That was like, because I wanted to go in and see the Darth Vader costume one more time. So, yeah, that was one that, again, it's like a throwaway thing. It was on the guide map, but it wasn't like advertised that it was there. And I loved it. I loved that the little display.
And I think that's the thing when you're a Disney fan and you go multiple times, you get to find those little hidden gems. And I feel like every park has them. And it's just a matter of like repeat visits and going off the beaten path sometimes, or having an amazing travel agent like Phil Gramick from Ear to There Travel to help you really find those little things, though. You know, like, I know, totally like a plug, but I mean, that really is when you do totally connect with the welcome home that they say to you as you walk into your resort. Like,
one of my favorite things. I love that still.
It feels that way. It becomes that way. And then there's those little pieces that you enjoy and get to revel in. But even though it is your home, somebody else is decorating sometimes. They can shut the doors on you.
Yeah,
so
man.
To enjoy it and to really never say, oh, we'll do that next time. Make the time to go and take advantage of those off the beaten path opportunities.
Really well said. Really super well said. I totally agree. And I'm not even going to make a joke because it was very just well done and well said.
I'm not pregnant, Phil.
That was really well done too. All right.
Thank you.
You're well said, a very nicely well said thing, and then you drop in a perfect joke at the end. Perfect. All right.
Sort of like this is your show.
Yeah, you kind of
the rhythm.
Yeah, it's true. All right. So how many do you have left, Laura? I keep losing track. You have 2?
I have 2. Yeah. I mean, I think the next one really fits in beautifully because it is, of course, the backlot tour.
Yep.
I loved the backlot tour so much as a kid. I thought it was so cool to get that insight. Golden Girls, I know I was like probably, gosh, what was I the first time I went? I was like 7 or 8, but my nanny and I used to watch Golden Girls together. And so seeing the Golden Girls house, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is where they live.
Yeah.
You know, like being able to experience that and to see a place that movies actually were made and TV was made was so magical. So I loved it. And honestly, like I'll share, like the Universal backlot here in Hollywood is still an active backlot. You can do the tour, but there was something about the MGM one that was special. It was different. It was Disney, you know, and that I think makes all the difference. So I really enjoyed that attraction.
Did you ever get to do the pre-show? Were you ever selected?
No.
They had like the water action movie pre-show there. I was actually in that.
Yeah.
I got to be in that once.
I completely forgot. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, was it so cool?
So I actually got it. It was fun. It was a really slow season. We went and like it was one of these crazy trips where we were at Hollywood Studios one day, and my cousin and I got picked for that. My aunt and my dad got picked for Superstar Television. My aunt also got picked for Indiana Jones. Like we just all in the same day. It was like bang, bang, bang. Because there was nobody there that day. It was like I gotta think this was like 1998. It was a really slow, like February or March, right before spring break. But yeah, I was 98. I was 18, 19 years old. I was right before my college program. And there's a scene in the beginning of the backlot tour, you know, there was a water stunt show kind of thing that you participated in.
Yeah.
And I was like the captain they put of the ship. And when you look through the monitor, you see, it looks like you're the captain of the boat. But when you look on the stage, it's just like the cutout boat window and a wheel. And then they put you in a raincoat and rain pants and like shoe coverings and a hat. And you get hit. You get smashed with a giant wave. So the person's like, act like you got hit by the wave. So I knew, because I had seen this 100 times, what was going to happen. That once the wave hit, you can't see the person. All you see is water. So I, being the slight ham that I am, decided that when the wave hit, I was going to hide. So the wave hits and I duck down so nobody can see me. And the lady comes and she's like, where did he go? And then I jumped up, like both my hands raised, like in a victory, Johnny Drama victory.
Nice.
And the whole place went nuts. When I say whole place, there was like 30 people there, but they all cheered like crazy. It was like my coolest moment. That was like my starring moment at Hollywood Studios. But Backlash, I love that tour. Love Catastrophe Canyon.
Yes.
Love going through the wardrobe, the garment part.
Oh my gosh.
All working on stuff. Like, that's when you got to see real thing. Like, you were backstage and you thought I could run into an actor today. I could
totally.
See. And back when they had like the star of the day.
Yes.
You really had a chance of running into somebody like Alan Alda or Hulk Hogan or someone backstage.
Yeah.
And they literally would be walking around like what I think what's funny is what I mentioned to you when we were on the Disney Studio lot was how much that reminded me of how much they modeled backstage at Hollywood Studios after the old Disney studio. Like
totally.
It looks so similar.
You mentioned the color scheme.
Yeah.
And I absolutely remember that. Yeah. Like when we were walking around, I was like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. Like this is the same tone of what we experienced on the backlot.
Yeah. It just felt very similar. So yeah, man, I'm with you. What's cool is that's still there. A lot of those backlot buildings are still as they were. They look exactly the same.
That's awesome.
Because they haven't been torn down because they need, office buildings back there for management and everything in the park. So a lot of it's still there. A lot of it's gone. They took a lot of it out with Toy Story Land and Star Wars Land. That's where some of those buildings were. But yeah, so okay. I see. I could talk about this. Is why we end up doing 2-hour shows.
I know.
I could talk about the backlot tour for another hour. All right, so
absolutely.
Let me go to my last one. Excuse me, and it's one that now is. I didn't think I missed it that much, right? And then last summer, Amy and I brought the kids out to Disneyland. The day that we met you out there, we took the kids to the Animation Academy in California Adventure, and I realized how much I missed the magic of Disney animation at Hollywood Studios. Yes. I never really, because I've been drawing since I was a little kid. I love to draw. I've always copied Disney characters. I had art books, sketchbooks full of Simpsons characters that I would copy when I was watching a show. I would draw Mickey Mouse and Pooh, and I've always loved drawing, and it was like, it's always been kind of a hobby of mine. So I don't know why, as I got to be an adult, it's like Christopher Robin, man. I stopped the movie, not the character. I stopped with like that childhood thing, and we just saw the movie the other night, and that's why it's in my head.
Oh,
when we did that with you, the animation in California Adventure, I was like, man, like this was. I wish I had this when my kids got a little older at Hollywood Studios to experience with them on every trip because they loved it. But they loved drawing the characters. Once we got to do Baymax, another time, I forget who we had the second time, but we actually did it a couple times because it was so much fun. And looking back now, I mean, I don't know if you remember when it was still a working animation studio, that building.
Yes.
And I mean, they did ink and paint for the Little Mermaid there. They did.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They did the Be Our Guest sequence from Beauty and the Beast in that building. Oh my
gosh.
Yeah. They did the I Just Can't Wait to Be King sequence from The Lion King in that building. Do you know the first full-length animated feature, the first ever, that was only worked on and completed, start to finish, in Hollywood Studios? What was it? The first ever.
Oh, geez.
I'm not going to keep you on the spot too long. It was
I don't know.
Mulan was the first ever.
Wow.
From start to finish All of that was produced at Hollywood Studios. Lilo and Stitch was also fully done there. Brother Bear was also fully done there. So yeah, that, and you could go in, and it was like the animators were on display at a zoo. You look through the glass, and
I remember
working.
that. Yeah,
remember?
Yeah. Oh, so cool.
Yeah, they were actually working on. You could go in one day and see somebody painting Flounder for the Little Mermaid in 1989, like crazy stuff. Or you could see them, painting Simba or drawing the scene where the Huns fight, in Mulan. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I loved it. And then later on, it became a glorified character meet and greet. When animation closed, there wasn't a whole lot, but it had the character meet and greets my kids loved, and then it still had the Animation Academy part that my kids would have loved, but we never got to do it there with them. And now it's Star Wars Launch Bay, which again, we love Star Wars, but I miss animation. It's really cool.
I think that just goes to the kinds of experiences that, again, I understand that it takes a talented person to lead it. When you think about just the restrictions from a business perspective of, who you can hire and how that all works out. And you understand why some of these more interactive things are going away, but it's also the thing that totally sets Disney apart. So I hope that they're considering that as they start to bring in these newer lands and, turn over certain areas. I hope that they bring back a little bit of that personal touch because, I think it's one of the reasons you go on the Jungle Cruise a million times. Yep. It's one of the reasons that, you go back multiple times to draw while you're in a theme park. Like, just think about that for a second.
It's a crazy concept.
But it's distinctly Disney as well. Yeah. It's not something that you're going to find anywhere else. You don't go to Six Flags and see that. You don't, Knott's Berry Farm here. You don't have those experiences. So I hope that Disney doesn't lose that and maybe finds a good way to bring it in. Oh, the dog does not like my thoughts here. Or maybe finds, a more economical way to do that. But, it's something that I love about the parks. And so I certainly hope that they're listening and that they bring more of that in.
I hope so too. And I think, there are little still things they do with, character drawing and things that you can do with your kids. In the kids club now at Contemporary, they do a character drawing class. So there are still touches of that around. I think the interactivity is just changing a bit, going more technological than pen to paper, pencil to paper kind of thing. But yeah, whatever. I'll still miss it, but I can still draw the characters at home with my kids and still have fun. It's just not in that same kind of setting. Although I saved my kids' Baymax drawings. That night I folded them all up and I put them I still wear cargo shorts. In my cargo shorts. When you're a dad at the theme park, you have to wear them.
Yep.
I have cameras and all kinds of pictures and food and snacks. But I folded them up and I kept them in my shorts. And then when I got home, I have them in my office in one of my books. And I saved them because it was a cool thing to save because my kids, they never drew Baymax before. So, and judging from their quality of art, hopefully they don't again. But no, I'm kidding. They did a great job. That's why I see.
It'll warm your heart.
Anyway, all right, Lauren, you got to finish it out strong with your last one.
I don't know how strong this is, but I will say one of the things I miss the most is calling it MGM. The name has been such a, I don't know, like this whole, is it changing? Is it going to be the same as Hollywood Studios? Yeah. I'm tired of the conversation. I loved MGM. I understand they had to get rid of it, but as a kid knowing that it was more than just Disney, I know obviously I love Disney, but that gave it this, Disney can be so many things to so many people. Is it the parks? Is it the merch? Is it the movies? Whatever it is. MGM was movies, and it kind of gave it this extra shine and anchored it in Hollywood. So ironically, to me, it made it more Hollywood than calling it Hollywood Studios. So I miss that.
It was the lion, right? The lion's head.
Yes.
When you would see that on the archway, that kind of made you feel like it was a little extra.
Yeah.
You're right. Like it wasn't just Disney. There was this Hollywood element that was there.
Like
and you're
legitimized
right.
it.
Yeah,
somehow.
that's a great point. And yeah, the music that you would hear wasn't all Disney music. And I agree with you. Now, when I was a cast member, they beat that out of your head in traditions. You were never going to call it MGM, ever.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's so funny. I remember this as in traditions. Whenever someone would call, and I was used to calling it MGM. That's what we called it, MGM.
So it was still officially called MGM at that time?
Never called MGM. It was
Okay.
Disney's MGM Studios. I'm sorry, the Disney MGM Studios.
I see.
You were not, when you were a cast member, were not allowed to call it MGM. You
called it Studios?
Disney MGM Studios. They wanted you to use the word Disney. When I remember in traditions saying MGM and getting from the trainer, oh, you mean Disney MGM Studios? I was like, yeah. And then later it'd be like MGM, and they'd be like, oh, no, you mean Disney MGM Studios? Yeah, okay. So it's so funny that they go, like, I had a friend, her name, I don't know if she listens to the show, but I'm going to say her name now. Her name is Krista. Her name was actually Krista Iskra. I know that's a tough name to grow up with. She's since married and she's has kids, but I remember when we left the college program, my first college program, I bought a Disney autograph book to have my friends and my roommates sign. And I remember in her signature, she wrote a memory and she said, we went to MGM. Oh, excuse me. And in a whole page, she wrote Disney MGM Studios all in capital letters, because that's how much they hammered it into your head. So I think back, 20 years ago, they were trying to erase that MGM thing. But yeah, before I was a cast member, I always called it MGM. And I was such a stick in the mud after I was a cast member and while I was, that I always corrected people. I would say, oh, no, the Disney MGM Studios.
I'm sure people loved that.
Oh, they loved it.
Yes, like the grammar police.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's it. You hang out with my wife for more than 2 minutes, you'll get corrected 5 times. English majors, man. That's
yeah, I know, right?
I know. Anyway, Lauren, thank you. That was a perfect ending to a fun show. I love the shows like this because you get to reminisce, and it's so much. I was worried because I was like, Lauren's like 23. She doesn't know all this stuff.
Oh, you're so kind.
Yeah. She doesn't know all this stuff, even though her friend didn't know she was pregnant for a while.
Yes. Yes.
She doesn't know all the old Hollywood studio stuff. But then I realized you're right. Like, this stuff was there until not that long ago, most of it.
Some of it, yeah. And I feel like those moments when you're a kid, it really emblazons some of those attractions in your mind. Not just the attraction itself, but like sharing it with your family and the things you did around, the various attractions and the conversations you had about them and how you still sometimes have those conversations. I know my family, we talk about it a lot. We used to love this park. I haven't been with my whole family in a long time, but I definitely am looking forward to the future as well and to making new memories there with my kid and my husband. So it's a bright future, that's for sure. Does your daughter have a Star Wars costume yet to wear in Galaxy's Edge? That's the question. So one of the things that I am getting when we move and finally have a home with more than 2 bedrooms is a sewing machine. So you better believe there are going to be some epic costumes coming. So I would just duct tape stuff together. I don't know how to sew. That's crazy. Well. That's crazy talk. That's another level there. I'm going to go over the top. It's going to happen. Oh, so stay tuned on social media. Very exciting. So, all right, Lauren. So thank you again for coming on again. We got to do this again sooner rather than later. Yes, please. And you got to tell everyone. So you're part of the Ear to There travel team. So if you can tell where they can find you there, and also where they can find you outside of the whole travel thing. Absolutely. So I am on Facebook. If you search Lauren from Ear to There, you will find me. And if you want to find me, gosh, where else? I I have a test prep company called Higher Scores Test Prep. So if you need ACT or SAT tips, I'm your gal. Kind of a disparate thing, not exactly in the same vein. A little less happy.
Hey, but it's family. People are always
Yeah.
going to need kids
Yeah,
always
if
need
you
help
need it.
preparing for that stuff. So absolutely, it definitely
Absolutely.
fits.
Yeah, so higherscorestestprep.com, or you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/higher scores.
Awesome.
Thanks, Phil.
Lauren, you're the best. Thank you. Talk to you soon. We'll do it again.
Sounds good. Bye.
And that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Ear to There Disney Podcast. Thank you once again to my friend Lauren Gadgioli for coming back on the show. You can find her, of course, at ididn'tknowIwaspregnant.com. Okay, that was really left in there for Lauren. I want to hear if she listens to the show, and I want to know. I want to see if she gets back to me on that. All right, so thank you so much for listening once again. Listen, I really appreciate it. And again, I say this all the time, but there are a billion podcasts. There are so many Disney podcasts, too, that you can be listening to. And I hope you listen to more than one, but I really am so thankful that right now you're listening to mine. It's awesome. It's amazing. It's the neatest thing. Neato. It is. It's the coolest thing to have people each and every week emailing me or texting me or calling me and saying, hey, I listened and it was really good and this, that, or I like this or I didn't like that. It's amazing. So thank you so much, as always, for listening. It is greatly appreciated. And this week, if you like the episode, just tell somebody about it. Tell your friend, tell your neighbor, tell your elderly grandparent who just got on a computer or a tablet or whatever. I'd really appreciate it if you shared the show this week with one person. All right, remember, there will be a new episode of the Ear to There Disney Podcast each and every Monday, as well as a second episode of either It's a Food World or the Word of the Week each and every Wednesday or Thursday. I laugh because I never know what day that's going to come out. So until next time, thank you again so much for listening. Have an amazing week. Bye-bye.
Ear to there.